Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is a Conquest video. We're on Conquest number 19, working towards SM-33, our first major entry to this new pirate faction. We're going to do a brief overview of my philosophy and approach to Conquest, the squads that I'm going to utilize to tackle all of these global and sector feats. With my philosophy and approach, there's a few things I want to emphasize here, which is why we're going to go over this, partly because it's going to affect the types of squads that I show, but also I want to encourage free-to-play players to not have that attitude that they can't do parts of this conquest because they don't have these new teams. It's completely achievable. I am free-to-play. I have always been able to red crate from the beginning, and that was when Kairos were still difficult, when doing things my way wasn't as easy as it is today. Now, efficiency is paramount to me. I want to be done with Conquest during week 1. I do extra refreshes then because of it, but I want to think about Conquest as little as possible during week 2, and I want to prioritize as much of my energy towards datacrons as possible, because especially with focused datacrons, it's really expensive these days, and the more energy you're using going through nodes that you could have done right the first time, then the less energy you're throwing towards those datacrons. I'm also looking to complete as many feats as possible during my initial run through the sector, hopefully 3-starring, and if I do have any remaining sector work to do, then I'm going to either try and do those on a 3-star or I'm doing those on the datacron node, and gear 11 is all you need for this. There is usually a way to use all of these marquee releases at that gear 11 level, which means low stars, and that might mean you need to be very careful with the type of data disk combos that you build. Be very thoughtful about which ones you grab. And now one of the things that I do during Conquest is I will do a sector by sector breakdown, and I also talk about the data disks that I select in my thought process behind which ones I'm grabbing and what types of combos I'm trying to build, because we're probably going to have some new disks during this Conquest. Spiritually, I'm against cheesing, but there have been feats in the past where it cheeses mandatory, and then of course I will do them. But in general, they're inefficient. They either require losing a node on purpose when it's not necessary, or it means going after a single feat at a time when you could have been working on multiple feats simultaneously. Or you can just spread out the feat throughout the sector and have been done with it anyway, so just knocking it out early is just a waste of time when you were still going to do it regardless. Now, that applies to in this situation like the Order 66 feats. I'm sure we're going to see a cheese come out. You're just going to be able to do it while you play it. There's other examples that are probably a little bit more apt in this case, and we will go through them as we start breaking down these sector feats and these global feats. Our global feats aren't too bad. We have 2 squad-related feats and 3 debuff-related feats. With squads, we are looking at the Bad Batch and the light side unaligned force users. With Bad Batch, we will have, of course, 2 different squads that we can lean on, the old school Bad Batch and the new fugitive-led mercenary Bad Batch squad. Now, with this new squad, I'm going to be leaving them all at gear 11, and I will take them to a maximum of 6 stars for the purposes of that sector by sector series of videos that I do to show that you can utilize them at less than 7 stars and gear 11. That will be sufficient enough to red crate. Because with the double drops and triple drops that we're about to get, I'm definitely going to be finishing the farms on Fugitive and Batcher. I'm already done with Hunter, and we're going to make a good amount of progress on Wrecker, probably get close to 6 stars. For 20 battles with the light side online force users, I will be using Sir Junda, but if you have GL Ray, that'll probably be your best option. Sir Junda, though, is amazing and great, and she's going to handle this no problem. Even if you don't have her at Relics or a lot of the online force users at Relics, don't be discouraged. Sir Junda is a beast. She can handle this at 3 stars. Just take all of these types of characters up to gear 11 as quickly as you can, and you're just going to see what you can do with your rosters continually expand. Sir Junda's mechanics just add a ridiculous amount of survivability to non-Relic squads. In terms of the characters to pair with her, Calcestis should definitely be included. Fulcrum is going to be useful in Sector 1 or some of the other sectors that you use this squad with, because Fulcrum is going to be able to take buffs from other allies, which is going to help with some sector feats. Visas Mar is just a little insurance to add a revive in case case you lose somebody. But any of the spots of Padawan, Fulcrum, and Visas, they're all fungible. You can take them out, throw in CLS or JTR if those are your better options, or to just handle some stamina issues. For our 3 debuff feats, we have Inflict Stagger 80 times, 300 damage over time, and Inflict Critical Damage down 80 times. Now the easiest of these is going to be Staggered because a ton of characters apply Stagger, but we are going to have a little bit of overlap with several squads. There's no need to really cover any of this in detail because it's just going to happen on its own, but the one squad worth mentioning is going to be our new Fugitive Bad Bat squad because Mercenary Wrecker, he applies an AoE stagger with his improvised weapon ability that is going to make a lot of progress on this feat and be one of the primary reasons that you're not going to have a need to actually focus on working on this one. It's going to happen incidentally. Damage over time is a similar kind of debuff where a ton of characters apply damage over time. There's going to be better ones than others. Obviously, this is intended to work with the dark side clones. They're going to make the most progress. I am expecting the Grand Moff Tarkin rework to occur prior to the start of Conquest. Otherwise, I think it's a little unfair for them to have like an Order 66 feat. It may still happen, I just think it's unlikely because CG does not want to create the idea that the red crate is unachievable for a percentage of the player base. They're trying to encourage spending. They want people to buy the episode pass and go after these types of goals. And if players feel like red crate's locked behind having a Lord Vader, they're going to be less inclined to go for it, especially when fewer players have Lord Vaders compared to other GLs. But one thing you can do, I have Palpatine here, that's for a different sector, but you can of course just throw in Vader, and Vader's going to make a bunch of progress on the damage over time. And damage over time is going to overlap with Sector 3, where you need to win 15 battles with Darth Vader, so you're going to be able to make a lot of damage over time progress during Sector 3, so it's something that you can delay until later. The most difficult of these though is going to be critical damage down, because there's only 8 characters that apply it, which means we need to spend far more consideration with how we approach this one. Dash Rendar, Bastila Shan Fallen, Paz Vizsla, and Saw Gerrera, they're going to be the 4 best ones, but I'm probably going to lean on Dash and Bastila Fallen because they have more overlap with other feats. You can build mercenary squads that are going to be able to hit a couple of those globals, particularly with Kira, Sana Staros, Dash, that combo. You can place them under a Balin squad. You do have to use Balin in Sector 5 Final Boss. That's one place where there's overlap, but that's only one node, that's minimal. Some version of a Dash squad is going to be able to help out. There's a lot of overlap here with other feats, like Han Solo can help out in Sector 1 with Evasion Up. Dash Rendar, of course, with his AoE Seeker Missiles, is going to apply critical damage down, but we can pair him with Sana Staros with semi-targeting Scatter Blaster, but this is a conditional stagger where you have to have target lock on the field first, and then we have Scattering Blast with Kira, which is another AoE stagger. In Sector 1, it's going to be pretty difficult to be super efficient in tackling all of these sector feats in a single run through the nodes because we're going to need a minimum of 3 squads in order to accomplish these feats. We have gain evasion up 50 times, defeat 50 enemies with clone trooper units, secret intel 60 times, and win 20 battles with a full squad of Spectre. And those Spectre battles, that's going to take up a whole lot of real estate throughout these nodes. Secret intel, there is only one character that applies it, BB-8, so we are forced into using a resistance or a droid comp. But evasion up and clone trooper units, that one we have good overlap. Evasion up is actually one of those buffs that very few characters in-game grant. And Omega, even though she's pictured here, she doesn't actually grant evasion up, she just synergizes with it. It's part of her kit, so she's shown here. But Echo and Hunter are going to be our best options, and really the Bad Batch overall is the best single squad to handle evasion up. And this is one of those squads where you should not get discouraged if you haven't worked on them yet. They punch up a ton, they work at low stars, just get them to gear 11. You will need Echo's Zeta at a minimum. Hunter Zeta is going to help as well. Hunter grants evasion up with his first special Shrouded Approach. It's an AoE, and we have with Echo 2 ways of handling evasion up, both with the basic ability, which is huge, and with the Never Any Doubt second special. That's another AoE evasion up. So between those 2 characters, we're going to be able to apply at a minimum 10 10 evasion ups per battle, usually more. And with the defeat 50 enemy requirements, it's going to take us around 5 nodes to handle that requirement, that feat. But if you can find a Night Sister squad or a Trooper node, you're going to be able to make a lot more progress on this feat than up against other ones. So just keep in mind as you're going through those sectors, if you find an opportunity to make more progress in those defeats, use this squad. With Secret Intel, that is a BB-8 exclusive for me because I don't have Rey. I'm not going to be able to use a Rey squad, so I am using C-3PO R2 and Veteran Smuggler Han just because they're at relics, so I can go lower in stamina if I need to. But really, hopefully this can be done in maybe 2 battles if you're careful. Just choose a weaker opponent and just really try and prolong that battle for as long as possible so that that secret intel is just going around and around and around. Now, you could also use different resistance characters. Mine are just all at gear 12 because I don't have Rey, so they're not as survivable. You could also look at light side droids, but I'm going to go with a resistance version because there's minimal droid synergy with other buffs and other squads and requirements. But for our last sector feat, we have the Spectre. I have Ahsoka, but this is not one where you need to have Ahsoka. Especially for Sector 1, the initial marquee release Spectre characters are more than sufficient to handle these Sector 1 feats. I tested them out at low stars in Gear 11 during the last Conquest. If you go back to Conquest 18's footage, you can see me using the, not even Exile, I even took them out to prove the point. You can just use these Spectre characters and they're going to do fine. Just choose your nodes wisely. They're going to be fine on the Datacron node. But this is why I always push to get your characters to a minimum level of investment. The game's been clear. CG has been prioritizing the new releases for all content, and working on those new releases gives you access to everything. I always set aside older things to work on newer. That's how I developed my roster the entire way through. With our boss nodes, mini boss, we have 5 surviving and dark side characters. Now, the initial way that I'm going to handle this, because when we actually play through the sector, some of the stuff may change, which is why we do the sector by sector videos. We're going to be looking at a Rex lead clone squad. Throwing Krex in there is just going to make that much more reliable, even if it turns out to be a harder node. And for the dark side characters, use a Sith version. You can get Vader in there for the damage over time. But Bastila Shan Fallen, she's in here because critical damage down and the stagger. Then you can throw in another 2 characters, whichever ones you want. Tanks would be most useful, like a Pre-Taunt with Sith Empire Trooper, or you can just throw in Malak, whatever you have. You could use like Sith Eternal Emperor, but when you're using these types of squads, what's nice is to use teams that are going to take a little bit longer so you make more progress on the feats. Make sure Bastila gets through a couple more cycles through her special. With our final boss, Cal Kestis and Hunter Mercenary, this is easy again. These are going to stack with our global feats where we can use the Fugitive Bad Bat squad for Hunter Mercenary, and we have our Seer Junda Lightside Unaligned Force user comp to have Cal Kestis. With Sector 2, this should be a very easy one to be as efficient as possible and accomplish all of these sector feats in a single play through the nodes. We have health steal up 60 times, stealth 60 times, and win 20 battles without losing any units, and win 10 battles with at least 3 dark side clones in the squad. And we can lose the dark side clones, still make progress, and hopefully we can do several of those battles without losing any of those new dark side clones. But those clones do have major synergy with stealth, and with health steal up, that is why I had Emperor Palpatine as the 5th in my presets, because Palpatine with his Let the Hate Flow ability has an AoE health steal up. Now I do have Grand Moff Tarkin as the lead in one of those presets because I am assuming that the rework happens on him, but if it doesn't, then you just swap him out and you put Palpatine in the lead slot. Then you can throw in Vader for the damage over time feat as well. Clones already offer some damage over times, but Vader's just going to accelerate that. And by the time you are done with the win 10 battles, you should have a lot of progress towards the health steal up and stealth mechanics if you're not completely done with them. And once you're done with those win 10 battles, then just switch over to a Star Killer squad where Juhani and Mara Jade are going to be offering additional stealths. Plus you're going to have a bunch of health steal up here with Palpatine, Visas Mar, and Juhani. And on top of that, you're going to have a pretty survivable squad that is going to allow you to get those win 20 battles. Our Sector 2 boss nodes, these are going to be easy. We have Clone Trooper units and Empire units with the mini boss. The Clone Trooper units, your Bad Batch squads are going to overlap with the Globals, but your old school Bad Batch might be depleted on stamina. I might still give them a go. You could switch over to the Fugitive squad, but you're going to need them in Sector 3, so you might want to hold back. Otherwise, you can be using that Rex squad used in the Sector 1 mini boss. With the Empire units, just use what you've been doing with the Darkside clones. By the time you hit the mini boss, you're probably still going to be working on the win 10 battles with the Darkside. But if stamina becomes an issue, just use like the Inquisitors or another powerful Empire squad to punch through it. At the final boss, we have Spectre Attacker and Darkside Ray. And with Spectre Attacker, just use the same squad that used in the Sector 1 final boss. And Darkside Ray, hopefully you got her a couple conquests ago and have an SOKR squad to pair her with, but if not, either that is one you are skipping or you're just going to use like a Crew or Hux lead Darkside squad and get through it. Or just use her maybe with like a Sith squad because she counts as Sith. Sector 3, this is going to be another sector that's going to require a little bit more work. We have fewer overlap here, at least meaningful overlap. We have defense up 60 times, win 15 battles with Vader, 400 stacks of target practice, and win 14 battles with no attackers in the squad. Vader's an attacker, so no overlap between those two win condition battles. Defense up has some synergy with target practice, but not the type of team that we want to be using. But we can accomplish defense up pretty easily with Darth Vader surviving, so those two can be combined. And that's why for Sector 3, I'm looking at this version of a Sith Empire combo squad. Palpatine is here to cycle through turns so that we are getting more opportunities to get all these buffs and debuffs. We have the win 15 battles with Vader, but this is also going to overlap with the Globals with the damage over time. Savage is here for defense up. He is going to be getting defense up whenever he gets hit. That's on his unique ability Brute. Unfortunately, that is not an Ami condition. Bastila Fallen is here because of both Globals, the stagger and the crit damage down, and that is with her Fear special. And we have final option here with Royal Guard because he has an AoE defense up with the Imperial Phalanx ability. So this is going to be a squad that's going to make a lot of global and sector feat progress and probably do a good job at being pretty survivable. For the 400 stacks of target practice, this one you basically have to have this new Fugitive Bad Batch squad. Now the old school Omega, she can do target practice, but it's going to be slow going. This is a fast squad towards the target practice accomplishment. It's also one that you can do in a loss. So don't be discouraged if you're going to lose your characters. You just need to keep grinding through those nodes and you will get it. If you really wanted to mess around maybe for a node or two with the Omega version, it is something to consider because the old school Bad Batch do have defensive up synergy. The new Bad Batch, Wrecker does have a little bit of defensive up mechanics, but it's conditional. It's on his unique ability where if healing immunity lands on a Bad Batch character, they dispel it and turn it into defense up. That's just not something that you can rely on, and not every opponent that you're going to go up against is going to apply it. And that's why the Sith are just going to be a far more effective option towards getting those defensive up. Now, one thing you could try and do is you could take out Hunter and Mercenary to get rid of the two attackers. And then you bring in possibly Wrecker, possibly Echo, and this way we get a fused Bad Batch squad that may be able to handle both the target practice, the defense up, and no attackers. This is something that I will be trying, but this is something to come back to those sector by sector videos. By day 2, I should have my Sector 3 video out. It'll probably be later in the day though, and then we'll be able to see how this squad performs. But by doing something like this, you are losing some target practice because the full fusion Fugitive squad is going to have far more synergy with those mechanics. If you still need to make progress on no attacker, another good option here is going to be your light side unaligned force users. Both Sirjunda and Calcestis have defense up mechanics. Calcestis is a little bit more conditional because it relates to his stacks of persistence. And then Fulcrum is in here because she is also going to be able to take the defense up from Sirjunda, Calcestis, and anyone who has it and give it to herself as well, which is going to fuel those stacks. You're probably going to be done with it already, but this is some version of a squad to consider. Ahsoka's in here because she also has some mechanics with defense up, but it's completely unnecessary. The main idea here is that your light side unaligned force user global can be worked on during Sector 3 and make progress on that no attacker feat, and help mitigate any stamina issues with the Bad Batch. With our boss nodes, we have Omega Fugitive Surviving, defeat an enemy with Apo at the mini-boss. Fugitive Omega Surviving is redundant with the squad that's going to be best for the sector. And Apo Surviving, that's going to be with those dark side clones. The only thing here is they're probably going to be depleted on stamina after Sector 2, so this is one probably to come back to at the end of Conquest when you're cleaning up some feats. Otherwise, you could do a hide the character squad to try and accomplish that one, with JML being a popular option to force a Tauntaun to JML with a Watt, and you could hide Apo that way. Now, one thing I want to caution against is the condition that prevents Apo from dying when paired with Lord Vader. That is only with all clones, all dark side clones, which we don't have a squad yet until Scorch is released. So during the second instance of this conquest, this one should be a non-issue, but right now we might need to be a little bit more careful and have more stamina on Apo or use a different squad to make it happen. With the final boss, we have Enoch and win without any support units. Enoch's the easy one. Just use a Imperial Remnant squad with Enoch. I've obviously got some good ones. If this one doesn't work for you, then of course some combo of the Dark Trooper Moff Gideon squad would allow you to accomplish it. For no support, there's not really a most efficient option here. Just use whatever. You can just use like any combination of Jedi tanks and attackers and just muscle through it. That's just one node. With Sector 4, we have attempt to inflict tenacity down 50 times, death mark 10 times, win 15 with Batcher surviving, and gain a bonus turn 50 times. Now 3 of these are going to be easy, but the win 15 with Batcher, that's a problem because we just leaned on that fugitive Bad Batch squad in Sector 3, so Batcher's probably going to be depleted on stamina unless that funky team was able to work. But then be doing a squad to try and hide Batcher to keep him alive. So this is probably a scenario where I might leave that feat until later after I complete the sector and return to it while I'm farming the Datacron node. But the rest of these we can largely accomplish through a mix of 2 to 3 different squads. We're going to be looking at the Gungan squad and a Sith squad and a Jedi squad. With the Gungans, we're going to have an AoE tenacity down with Heyo Watch Out on Gungan phalanx. We have Death Mark coming from Jar Jar's kit, but not everybody has Jar Jar. But what's nice about Jar Jar is that Death Mark is going to be a little bit more reliable in the sense that he applies it with his basic ability so that it'll happen multiple times per battle. It's going to be random, but we can count on it to happen at least a couple times so we can make progress on that feat. The Gungans aren't going to be able to contribute to bonus turn though. Tarpals does have it within his kit, but it's only for territory battles. So we can look at then the Sith squad, Darth Revan lead, but the problem here is Darth Revan only applies 1 death mark onto the leader, so it's probably only going to happen once per battle unless you get lucky with turn meter. Tenacity down will be provided by Darth Malik, and that happens from his basic ability, so we're going to be able to apply a lot of that. It's not as good as an AoE, but on a basic you can just spam that basic and make it happen. And then the bonus turn is going to come from the Sith Trooper. The only problem here is somebody needs to die in order for the Sith Trooper to get the bonus turn, so you're going to be getting lower stars on the node. Our last solid option is going to be the the Jedi, but the Jedi don't have a means of applying Death Mark. But they are going to be able to contribute a lot towards bonus turn and tenacity down. And we can always use a different comp of this squad where we try to hide Batcher within it and try and sneak in some of those win 15 battles with Batcher. What we get from this squad is Grandmaster Yoda being the MVP of bonus turns. You can use a cycle of Master Stroke and Battle Meditation and all the assist calls onto Yoda to feed a bunch of turn meters so that you're using Master Stroke as much as possible to get a ton of bonus turns. The tenacity down, that is coming from Jedi Master Luke. He inflicts a targeted tenacity down with this They Grow Beyond ability. Now, Jocasta Nu, if you have her, what she can do is if you target somebody who has tenacity down with her basic, she's going to spread it to everybody. Now, if it was a Jedi Vanguard only squad, she also applies it with her unique ability, but that condition only happens with Jedi Vanguard, and both JML and, more importantly, Grandmaster Yoda are not Jedi Vanguard. So I don't think utilizing a Jedi Vanguard squad is going to help out the most when the bigger concern is the bonus turns and not the tenacity down, because we have already gone over two other squads that are going to be able to contribute towards tenacity down in a pretty healthy way. Anakin is here because he also has bonus turn, and this last slot, that's the Batcher or another Jedi slot. In between those three squads, you should have no issues with Death Mark, bonus turn, and tenacity down, and no stamina issues, giving you plenty of time for your other squads to recover stamina. And actually, it's one reason I should say about not using Batcher or worrying about Batcher, because you kind of want to have them for Sector 5. Now, for our Sector 4 boss nodes, we have Darth Vader and Lord Vader surviving. That's only if you have Lord Vader. We don't even really need to go over it because it should be easy. We have Huyang surviving, and both of those were returning to previous squad sets where you can use whatever you used in Sector 1 and Sector 2 for a Spectre. That's going to take care of Huyang. You can do General Syndulla. If you don't even have any of those, you could look at doing like a sortie lead with Huyang and just protect him with droids. And then with Lord Vader and Darth Vader, you're just using your same comps. You don't have to use the dark side clones in this case. You can just swap in any Empire, but you'd have to have Lord Vader at that point. With our final boss node, though, we do have a Jocasta Nu requirement and win with a full squad of Bad Batch. And for the Bad Batch, I'm looking at the old school Bad Batch because they should have refreshed their stamina by this point, which is going to make them a little bit more effective. And I want to be saving the Fugitive Bad Batch squad for Sector 5. And with Jocasta Nu, that's one where it depends on what kind of progress you've made on the other feats. You should be done by this point, but in case you're not, you can be doing the JML squad that we've already talked about. Otherwise, you can just switch to a Kelleran lead. Any Kelleran lead squad should do good enough for the Jedi Vanguard, and this is all Jedi Vanguard characters. With Sector 5, this isn't that bad. We have Inflict Evasion down 60 times, Marked 25 times, Inflict Order 66 only 10 times, and win 14 battles with a full squad of Empire. Now, the few things to note: with Marked, you don't need to win the battle. With Order 66, you don't need to win the battle. And with Empire units, not everyone has to survive. But we will most likely need 3 separate squads in order to tackle this one. And that is because when we look at these feats like Evasion down, not too many characters apply it, but the most important ones here for our purposes are going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, Cal Kestis, and Bastila Shan Fallen. And we see the same thing with Marked. Not too many characters apply it, but we do see that it is a major mechanic of the new Bad Batch squad, which is why I have been pushing them in several videos now to make sure players are aware of how they should be a priority to get through this conquest. But it's only 25 and you can lose. For Sector 5 though, your best option for most players is going to be a Jedi Master Luke squad. But he may be a little depleted on stamina from Sector 4, but the big component here is Obi-Wan Kenobi, who applies Evasion down with his basic ability, which means you use Inherited Teachings and constantly call Obi-Wan to assist, and he is going to burn very quickly through that Evasion down feat. Now, Marked is going to be Jedi Knight Revan, is you're just only going to be able to do that once, maybe twice per battle, depending on how slow you play it. So it's going to be a little bit slow going, which is what turns this new Bad Batch squad into a very interesting option here, because Marked is a major mechanic to these characters, especially Batcher and Mercenary Hunter. They can both apply it. You're probably going to get 3 to 5 marks per battle with this squad, which means in about 5 battles you should be done with the feat, win or lose. Now I'm going to of course try not to lose, but we're going to have to see the data discs and see what kind of luck we get on the nodes first. With the other 2 sector feats, we have Empire and Order 66, and those stack as well. Now Lord Vader is your best option, and we are of course hoping that the Grand Moff Tarkin rework happens, but you can still work on this regardless. Piet is a character you're going to want to swap in for this sector for the marked mechanic that he provides. Order 66 is just going to be a lot more work and slow going without Lord Vader, but you only have to inflict it 10 times, which isn't that much. If you don't have Vader, it's probably just going to be once a battle, and you're probably going to lose the clones, but it should be possible. Just more work. If you have Lord Vader, it's going to probably be a non-issue. You should probably be able to do 2 minimum a battle, probably 3. And this is also the type of feat that's just going to get easier once Scorch is released. And Scorch might be released for the 2nd week of this conquest. Definitely for the 2nd and 3rd iterations of the SM-33 conquest, but it's something to keep in mind with all of these conquests is just because it's hard the first time, it's going to get easier the 2nd and 3rd times we go through it. With our boss feats, at the mini boss we have Ahsoka Tano in the squad. That's only if you have her, and no tanks in the squad. For no tanks, I would try and double up with Lord Vader or your dark side clones and Order 66, if that's an option for you. Ahsoka, of course, is just your standard Spectre squad, but she's a new GL, not everyone's going to have her, and it's an easy one to skip in that case. Otherwise, on no tanks, this is another opportunity where I'd be looking to overlap with globals and work on like a Ser Jundis squad and light side unaligned force users. On the final boss node, we have Baylan Skoll and Crosshair Scarred surviving. And Crosshair, we're going to try and use the Fugitive Bad Batch squad. If that's not an option, then we are looking at a hide the character situation where we bring in JML again, throw in Watt to force the taunt, and just keep Crosshair protected. And with Baylan Skoll, this is an opportunity to try and do some of the global feats as well, if you haven't already finished the critical damage down and stagger. Now, the critical damage down is Dash Rendar again, but Sanastaros is an option for stagger, but Kira, it would be your ideal option. It's just I don't have her at Relics. We are still several days out from this conquest, but you can start making preparations now. Make your presets, start farming these shards up during the double and triple drop days, and then start gearing these characters up so you can take advantage. I am also going to do sector by sector videos of all of these feats because a lot of what I'm thinking now might be invalidated by what we actually end up seeing, and I just want to test them out, and you'll see what actually works for me and what doesn't. Also, how I'm approaching and my thought process behind those data discs, what kind of combos I'm trying to build. We do have other videos out. In the meantime, though, we have this pirate faction video, and more importantly, speculating on the pirate fleet, because that's ultimately the end goal here. The algorithm didn't really like that one, but the people who watched it did, so I recommend it. That's a fun video. And down below, we're going to put the datacrons. The current datacron set, I break down in my datacron videos. We look at the datacrons in 3 different tiers, roughly list them out, and then I explain my targets and give a brief blurb on each character cron. And I will swap that out when the new datacron sets come out during Conquest 2 and 3 if you're watching this video a little bit later. Thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.